My brothers and sisters, the mind is one of the greatest gifts Allah has given us. Yet too often, we allow it to be clouded with negativity. Thoughts that steal our peace, limit our potential, and distance us from the blessings that are already within our reach. Remember, you cannot live a positive life with a negative mind. Just as a garden will bloom when watered with care, your mind will flourish when nurtured with gratitude, faith, and hope. Today, let us talk about reprogramming our minds, removing the weeds of negativity and planting seeds that will bear fruits of success, peace, and purpose. Negative thoughts are rarely random. They have a beginning, a source, and a story behind them. Many times, we simply allow them to enter our hearts and minds without questioning why they are there, or what purpose they serve. If you trace these thoughts back to their origin, you may find they stem from a painful experience in the past, an unkind word from someone you valued, a disappointment that made you doubt yourself, or even a false belief you've repeated so many times that it feels like truth. Recognizing the source is the first step in taking away its power. Imagine if someone kept leaving rubbish at your doorstep every morning, and you never questioned where it came from. It would keep piling up until your home became unbearable. But the moment you catch the person and address the cause, you can stop the flow. Negative thinking works the same way. It may come from certain environments where people constantly complain, criticize, and focus only on what's wrong. It may come from media that thrives on fear, bad news, and comparison, feeding the mind with seeds of worry and inadequacy. It may even come from your own unchecked self-talk. Those quiet whispers telling you that you're not good enough, you'll fail, or you don't deserve happiness. If you never pause to ask, where is this coming from? Those whispers will turn into loud voices that dominate your mind. But when you stop and identify the trigger, whether it's a habit, a person, a memory, or a belief, you suddenly hold the key to change. This awareness is like turning on the lights in a dark room. The shadows lose their power because you can see them clearly. Often, negative thoughts are inherited patterns, passed down by parents, teachers, or society without malicious intent, but they linger because they were never challenged. It's important to realize that, just because a thought feels familiar, doesn't mean it is true. And just because it has been repeated, doesn't mean it must stay. Recognizing the source doesn't always mean you can erase the thought instantly, but it gives you the wisdom to respond instead of react. You begin to understand that not every thought deserves your attention or belief. This mental clarity is what allows you to break cycles of self-doubt, fear, and hopelessness. Once you can see where the negativity is entering, you can begin to shut the door to it, and open the windows to fresh, empowering perspectives that nurture the soul instead of draining it. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools you can use to reprogram your mind and shift away from negativity. The moment you start focusing on what you have instead of what you lack, your entire perspective begins to transform. It is easy to dwell on problems, to magnify challenges, and to feel weighed down by what is missing. But when you make a habit of looking at the blessings already in your life, you begin to see how rich you truly are. Think about the simple things we take for granted. The breath you are taking right now, the ability to see, to hear, to walk, to think. These are gifts that no amount of wealth can replace. Yet we often overlook them because we are busy chasing things that lie outside our reach. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. It is like adjusting the lens of a camera. Suddenly, what was once blurred with complaints becomes sharp with appreciation. Science even shows that practicing gratitude rewires the brain to be more optimistic and resilient. In faith, gratitude is not just a good habit, it is a command. The more thankful you are to Allah, the more blessings you attract, because gratitude opens your heart to receive. Even in hardship, there is always something to be thankful for. Perhaps a lesson learned, a new strength discovered, or a protection from something far worse. When you start each day by listing the things you are grateful for, you begin to train your mind to search for the good, instead of dwelling on the bad. It could be the warmth of the sun on your face, a kind word from a friend, a meal on your table, or the fact that you woke up alive when so many did not. The power of gratitude is that it multiplies. The more you acknowledge your blessings, the more you see them. It doesn't erase life's challenges, but it changes how you face them, because you realize you are not empty-handed. Gratitude also silences envy and comparison, two of the biggest sources of negative thinking. When you are busy counting your own blessings, you have no time to measure your life against others. Instead, you find peace in what has been written for you, trusting that Allah's plan is perfect, even if you do not see the full picture yet. Gratitude softens the heart, calms the mind, and lifts the soul. It turns your focus away from complaints that drain you toward appreciation that strengthens you, and it reminds you that even in the smallest things, there is a reason to smile. What you allow into your mind becomes the raw material from which your thoughts are formed, and your thoughts shape your emotions, decisions, and ultimately your life. Guarding your input means being intentional about what you expose yourself to every single day. If you constantly feed your mind with fear, gossip, negativity, and comparison, it will naturally produce anxiety, doubt, and dissatisfaction. Just as your physical health depends on the food you consume, your mental and spiritual health depend on the information, conversations, and images you take in. Many people underestimate the effect of their surroundings. The media they watch, the social media accounts they follow, the music they listen to, and even the people they spend time with. Every one of these is like a seed planted in the soil of your mind, and over time, those seeds will grow into either nourishing fruits or choking weeds. If you repeatedly hear hopeless messages, constant complaints, or destructive criticism, your mind begins to adopt that as the norm. Soon you find yourself speaking the same way, thinking the same way, and expecting the same results. Guarding your input does not mean avoiding reality or pretending problems don't exist, but it means choosing sources that uplift, educate, and inspire you rather than those that drain your energy. It means setting boundaries with people who only bring negativity into your life, even if they are close to you, and surrounding yourself with those who remind you of your values, your goals, and your worth. It also means being mindful of entertainment choices, because what you watch or listen to often lingers in your subconscious long after the moment has passed. Replacing harmful input with beneficial content is like replacing junk food with nutritious meals. Over time, your mental state becomes stronger and more resilient. Instead of scrolling endlessly through feeds that stir envy or comparison, choose to read, listen, or watch things that teach you something new or deepen your faith. Instead of spending hours in conversations that center on complaints, join discussions that focus on solutions, growth, and gratitude. Even small changes in your daily input can have a profound effect on your mindset. Just as you would not leave your home's door wide open for anyone to enter, do not leave your mind unprotected for any thought, image, or idea to take root. You have the power to decide what enters, and by doing so, you create a mental environment where positivity can grow and negativity struggles to survive. The words you speak carry immense power, not just in influencing others but in shaping the way you see yourself. Every time you speak, you are reinforcing a certain image and belief in your own mind, and over time, that becomes your reality. Speaking life over yourself means consciously choosing words that build you up instead of tearing you down. Many people are quick to speak negatively about themselves, sometimes without even realizing it. They say things like, "I'm so stupid," "I can't do this," or "I always fail." And these statements become like chains around their minds, limiting what they believe they can achieve. The human brain is deeply influenced by repetition. What you say often, you eventually begin to believe, even if it started as a joke or casual remark. When you speak words of encouragement to yourself, you create a mental atmosphere of confidence, hope, and resilience. This doesn't mean you ignore your mistakes or weaknesses, but it means you speak about them in a way that focuses on growth instead of defeat. Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at this," you say, "I'm learning and getting better." Instead of saying, "I'll never succeed," you say, "I'm taking steps towards success every day." These small shifts in language can reprogram the way you approach challenges. Your words also have the power to influence your emotions in the present moment. Saying something positive out loud can immediately change your mood and outlook, while negative speech can drag you deeper into frustration or hopelessness. Faith teaches us to be mindful of our speech, reminding us that every word is recorded and carries weight. This applies not only to what we say to others, but also to what we say to ourselves in private moments. Speaking life means affirming your worth, acknowledging your blessings, and reminding yourself that your potential is greater than your current circumstances. It means talking to yourself as you would to a dear friend, with kindness, encouragement, and belief in their ability to grow. When you start replacing self-criticism with self-compassion, you give your mind the strength to face difficulties without giving up. You also become less dependent on external validation because you've learned to find strength from within. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and your inner voice becomes your biggest supporter, instead of your harshest critic. The power of speaking life is that it not only changes how you see yourself but also changes how others see and treat you, because confidence and positivity are contagious, and they begin with the words you choose to release into the world. The people you choose to surround yourself with play a far greater role in shaping your mindset than most realize. Human beings are deeply influenced by the environment they are in, and this influence works silently but powerfully. If you spend most of your time around individuals who are negative, constantly complaining, criticizing, or doubting themselves and others, it will slowly begin to seep into your own thinking. You may not notice it at first, but the tone of their speech, the focus of their conversations, and their attitude toward life will become a mirror you start reflecting. On the other hand, when you are in the company of people who uplift you, encourage you, and remind you of your potential, your own thoughts and emotions begin to rise to match theirs. Surrounding yourself with positive company is not about creating a bubble where you avoid everyone who faces struggles, because everyone has challenges. It is about being with those who, despite their struggles, choose hope over despair, solutions over complaints, and faith over fear. Positive people have a way of opening your eyes to possibilities you might never have considered. They are often the ones who believe in you, even when you doubt yourself, who speak words of encouragement at just the right time, and who push you to step out of your comfort zone to grow. Their presence alone can act as a shield against negativity, because they naturally focus on what can be done rather than what cannot. They will celebrate your progress, no matter how small, and when you stumble, they will help you see the lesson, rather than just the failure. Such people are like sunlight to a plant. They help you grow in ways you might not have managed on your own. At the same time, surrounding yourself with positive company also means setting boundaries with those whose influence consistently drags you down. This can be difficult, especially if they are family members, old friends, or colleagues you see every day. But protecting your mental and spiritual space is essential if you want to reprogram your mind for lasting positivity. Boundaries do not have to be harsh or unkind. They can be as simple as limiting the amount of time you spend with certain people, steering conversations away from destructive topics, or politely excusing yourself when negativity becomes overwhelming. By doing this, you are not rejecting the person, but you are rejecting the harmful influence they may bring into your life. There is also the principle that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. If those 5 are driven, faithful, and optimistic, chances are you will develop similar traits. If they are constantly pessimistic and doubtful, you will likely absorb some of that energy as well. This is why being intentional about your inner circle is so important. Your mind is like a sponge. It absorbs the attitudes, habits, and beliefs of those around you. If your goal is to eliminate negative thinking, then surrounding yourself with positive people is like placing your sponge in clean, fresh water instead of muddy, polluted water. Positive company is not limited to people you meet face to face. In today's world, it can also include the voices you listen to through books, podcasts, videos, and other forms of media. You may not be able to change every aspect of your physical environment immediately, but you can choose whose voices you allow to influence you. By filling your daily input with uplifting, educational, and inspiring messages, you are, in a way, surrounding yourself with positive company, even when alone. This can make a huge difference in how you think and feel, because it keeps your mind anchored to hope and growth, rather than to fear and stagnation. It is also worth noting that surrounding yourself with positive company is not a passive act. It requires effort and sometimes sacrifice. You might need to step away from familiar but unhelpful social circles and seek out new ones that align with your values and goals. This might involve joining a community group, attending events, participating in activities that interest you, or even volunteering for causes you care about. These environments naturally attract people with a similar outlook, making it easier to form genuine connections with those who will inspire and challenge you in a healthy way. The benefits of positive company go beyond mindset. They can influence your habits, your resilience, and even your spiritual connection. When you are around people who remind you to be grateful, to trust in Allah's plan, and to focus on the blessings you have, you naturally start living with a more hopeful and content heart. When you are in the company of those who live with integrity, discipline, and kindness, you begin to model those same behaviors in your own life. This ripple effect is one of the most powerful ways to transform your thinking, because it does not rely on willpower alone. It is supported by a community that reflects and reinforces the values you want to live by. Another important aspect is accountability. Positive people not only cheer you on when you are doing well, but also hold you accountable when you start slipping into negativity or destructive habits. They remind you of your commitments, help you realign your focus, and encourage you to keep going when you feel like giving up. This kind of accountability is not about control but about care. They want to see you succeed and will not let you settle for less than your potential. Over time, this support system becomes a safety net that catches you during difficult moments and gives you the push you need to keep moving forward. Finally, surrounding yourself with positive company creates an environment where growth becomes natural. Just as a seed will grow more easily in fertile soil with enough sunlight and water, your mind will flourish in an environment of kindness, encouragement, and faith. When you consistently receive messages of hope, resilience, and possibility from the people around you, your brain starts to adopt these as its default patterns. Negativity loses its grip because it no longer feels familiar or normal. Instead, optimism and gratitude become your new standard of thinking. This is how your environment and your relationships can help reprogram your mind for good. By creating a space where negativity cannot thrive, and where positivity becomes the air you breathe, anchoring your mind in faith is one of the most powerful ways to eliminate negative thinking, because faith gives you a foundation that remains steady even when life feels uncertain. When your mind is rooted in trust in Allah, you begin to see challenges, delays, and even losses through a different lens. You no longer view them as random acts of misfortune, but as part of a greater plan designed for your ultimate good. This shift in perspective immediately weakens the grip of fear, worry, and hopelessness, because you know that everything that happens, whether it feels pleasant or painful, is within the perfect wisdom of your Creator. Faith offers a sense of security that nothing else can match. People may fail you, circumstances may change, but Allah's mercy, power, and knowledge remain constant. Anchoring your mind in faith means that your first reaction to difficulty is not panic but prayer. It means when a negative thought enters your mind, you measure it against the promises of Allah, and you remind yourself that He has said, "Indeed, with hardship comes ease." This remembrance acts like a filter that stops negativity from taking root. Instead of spiraling into, "What if everything goes wrong?" your mind learns to say, "What if this leads me to something better?" Faith does not remove challenges from life, but it gives you the strength and patience to face them with dignity and hope. When you anchor your mind in faith, you understand that trials are not punishments but opportunities to grow in patience, gratitude, and closeness to Allah. A mind anchored in faith is also less vulnerable to the noise of the world. In a time where countless voices are trying to tell you who you should be, what you should fear, and what you should chase, faith keeps you grounded in what truly matters. You stop measuring your worth by material success or the opinions of people, and you begin to measure it by your sincerity, your efforts, and your obedience to your Creator. This shift frees you from much of the anxiety and comparison that fuels negative thinking. When your ultimate goal is to please Allah, you realize that temporary setbacks and disappointments are just part of the journey, and not a reflection of your value. Anchoring your mind in faith also means turning regularly to the practices that strengthen that faith. This includes daily prayer, reciting and reflecting on the Quran, making dua with sincerity, and engaging in remembrance adirk. These acts are not just rituals, they are nourishment for the mind and soul. They fill your heart with light and clarity, making it harder for darkness and doubt to take hold. When you fill your day with moments of connection to Allah, negative thoughts find less space to grow. They are replaced by reminders of His mercy, His power, and His promises. Even something as simple as starting the day with a sincere supplication can set the tone for hours of calm, focus, and optimism. Another way faith anchors the mind is by giving meaning to hardship. Without faith, struggles can feel pointless and overwhelming. But with faith, you know that every moment of patience is rewarded, Every tear is seen, and every difficulty carries wisdom even if you cannot see it yet. This understanding transforms the way you think. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this? How can this bring me closer to Allah?" This mindset reduces the emotional weight of trials and replaces it with a sense of purpose. It is much harder for negative thoughts to dominate when you believe that your struggle is part of a path that leads to something greater than this world. Faith also strengthens your resilience in moments of uncertainty. Life is full of unknowns. We cannot control the future, and this lack of control often fuels anxiety. But when you anchor your mind in faith, you learn to hand over that control to Allah. You take the necessary steps, make your best effort, and then trust that the outcome, whatever it may be, will be what is best for you. This trust lifts the burden of overthinking and constant worry. You no longer feel the need to micromanage every detail of your life, because you know that the one who controls the universe is already managing it perfectly. This kind of surrender does not make you passive, it makes you proactive without being consumed by fear of failure. Anchoring your mind in faith also involves being mindful of the company you keep and the voices you listen to. People who constantly feed your doubts or question your values can weaken your faith over time. Surrounding yourself with those who remind you of Allah, encourage you to do good, and share words of hope reinforces your mental anchor. Faith grows stronger in environments where it is nurtured, and a strong faith naturally repels the seeds of negative thinking. In moments when your own strength feels low, the reminders from others can be the rope that pulls you back toward clarity and trust. It is also important to understand that anchoring your mind in faith is a daily process, not a one-time event. Just as a ship must constantly adjust its anchor to remain steady against changing tides, you must consistently return to your source of strength to stay grounded. There will be days when your faith feels unshakable and days when it feels fragile. On those weaker days, the practices you have built, prayer, remembrance, gratitude, act as your safety net. They prevent you from drifting too far into negativity, even if you feel weighed down. Over time, these habits become part of your identity, and your default response to difficulty becomes rooted in trust, rather than despair. One of the most profound effects of anchoring your mind in faith is that it changes your internal dialogue. Instead of speaking to yourself from a place of fear, you begin speaking from a place of trust. Instead of thinking, "I can't handle this," you think, "With Allah's help, I can endure this." Instead of focusing on everything that could go wrong, you focus on what could go right, and even if it doesn't go as planned, you trust that it will still lead to something good. This shift in self-talk has a powerful effect on your overall mental state, making it much harder for negativity to dominate your thoughts. Finally, when your mind is anchored in faith, you carry a sense of peace that is not easily shaken. Even when the world feels chaotic, you have an inner calm because you know your life is in the hands of the one who knows you better than you know yourself. This peace does not mean you never feel sadness, worry, or frustration, but it means those feelings do not control you. They pass through like clouds, while your anchor holds firm beneath the surface, keeping you steady and clear-minded no matter how strong the winds of life may blow.